Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So I was randomly thinking about this today, and I was thinking to myself, why are black women leaving the femininity conversation? For the past decade or so, I've seen unambiguous women dominating the femininity conversation. And it seems like ever since the rise of the exotical sector, and also ever since the rise of kind of like decentering men content, I've noticed a lot of black content creators are kind of running into the abyss. They're kind of recoiling, they're starting to backtrack their talking points. So I just wanted to kind of analyze that and talk about that. And by the way, for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome to the Pretty Girl Club. I see that I'm gaining some new subscribers lately. But this is a sociology channel. So we like to analyze things, we like to kind of point out patterns. But I think that the main reason why a lot of them left the femininity conversation is because the Exoticals pointed out the fact that their talking points were white male centered. So a lot of their content, if you watch their videos, a lot of it is about how to attract a man, how to get a rich white man, or they will use talking points from Robert Greene's books. Robert Greene is the author of The Art of Seduction and the 48 Laws of Power. He's a white man, so I could still make the argument that a lot of the femininity stuff was still white male centered. So I think that's reason number one. It's because a lot of them they couldn't take it past that. It's almost as if they had this mindset of being like a pick me. I really feel like a lot of women with inferiority complexes, they struggle with being a pick me. And that's because if you think about what a pick me is like really a woman who's desperate for external validation. She's desperate for male validation. And so I think that's where a lot of this strategy content was coming from, kind of like this feminine strategy or whatever. It was always content about how can you attract a white man? What type of eye contact can you make with him? What type of outfit can you wear to get his attention? What type of voice can you talk in so that he can like you? And I've noticed that for a lot of women who feel inferior to women of other phenotypes, the ultimate prize for them is white male validation because they feel like it's their reparations. I've actually heard some of them use that exact talking point. They will say that reparations is when they get to be fucked by a white man. Their reparations or them finally succeeding is when they get chosen by the almighty white man, their almighty white savior. So I think a part of the reason why the femininity content in the black community has started to die off is because us women over here in the exotical space, we were able to pinpoint that and call that out. And because a lot of them couldn't handle the smoke and they couldn't come back with our talking points, they felt the need to just go ahead and try to remove their content because they knew that what we were saying was right, was that all of the colorism conversation, texturism, featureism, a lot of their dating strategy stuff, a lot of their femininity stuff, it was all just male centered. And this is because a lot of unambiguous women come from a black male worshiping culture, according to content creators like Cynthia G. She talks about this all the time. So it's like, we're just repeating what you guys say. So if you come from a culture that worships black men, or a culture that worships men in general because of your religious background, maybe you got a lot of black women actually are Christian or Muslim or something. And I feel like there are some women who will use religion as a bridge to get a man. So I've noticed that when their little dating strategies don't work, when the hair weave doesn't work, when the 4C hair doesn't work and getting this man's attention, suddenly she will have this come to Jesus moment. Suddenly she will have this conversion where she's changed her life around. Blunt Girly actually talked about this on her channel. And I've noticed that as well. I think a lot of women, they just use religion because they think it will help them attract a better quality man. And I mean, I'm not even arguing against people's religion. If it works for you, it works for you. But just say that. Just admit that all that content was revolving around getting a man. Just admit that you're male centered and move on. And also, when you look at their content where they are complaining about not receiving feminine privilege, oftentimes, once again, it's based on the perceptions of men. They will make all these videos like, who are these celebrity men dating? Who are these NFL players choosing? Who are these rappers choosing to date? So once you go on to some of those content creators' channels, you'll start to see that that's really where the obsession lies. And I talked a lot about the femcel mindset on here. So a lot of you guys feel like femcells don't exist. I mean, honestly, I don't disagree with that. I do think women have a higher chance to like have sex or whatever, but femcell is just the closest word that I can use to describe that mindset of a pick me who never actually got picked. It's a male centered woman who's so desperate to receive the breadcrumbs of social validation to the point where she will try to code switch. It's almost like an extreme form of code switching. It's like where you change your clothing, you change your whole personality, you change your mannerisms. Some women will even change their hobbies. Like I saw one creator a while ago, she was saying how white men like black women who play video games. So you got black women who are not even interested in video games randomly changing their hobby, playing these pointless video games that they're not even interested in hopes that they can appear more feminine to a non-black man. So I think that's part of the reason why they're leaving the femininity content is because the Exoticals have come in and exposed how shallow a lot of their talking points actually are. And also, another reason is because when you look at our content over here, the femininity content, like on this channel, it tends to be based more in psychology. It tends to be based more in sociology. So it's not revolving around male centeredness. It's not revolving around catching a man or something. Like that's the epitome of being feminine, is if you can catch a man. You know, being hypergamous, that's the epitome of being feminine. She's more feminine than you because she's more hypergamous than you. Her husband is richer than your husband, and so therefore she's more feminine. So do you see how they kind of they unintentionally created this hierarchy amongst black women where it's like, you know, if you're a single black woman, oh, you can't get a man and can't keep a man and you must be masculine. But then if you marry a white man, you must be the ultimate feminine black woman because, you know, you were able to attract the most masculine man in society, which is a white man, according to their talking points. So I think another reason why they started abandoning that was because we called out their internalized anti-blackness. You know, they're assuming that anything that's from a person of color, so like the black culture, for example, or even black men, you know, their own counterparts, their own fathers, they perceive that as being dusty. But they don't realize that they're actually dissing themselves because they're saying that they come from a lineage of dusties. They're saying they come from generation after generation after generation of dusties if they're monoracially black. So that's another thing that we called out, and that's another reason why they stopped making the femininity content. It's because they're scared of us exoticals analyzing what they have to say. They're scared of the critical analysis that we do on this YouTube channel. Number 3 is for moral reasons. Some women on YouTube, I noticed that they're saying that like, oh, you know, femininity content or seduction content, anything that has to do with dark psychology, which is what I talk about. When I use the term dark femininity on this channel, I'm really talking about dark psychology. By the way, I do have my own dark femininity course that's not male centered, but I have noticed though that now some of them are trying to say like, oh, well, that goes against my morals because you have to play all these mind games and you have to like manipulate people and be kind of like cunning in order to get what you want as a woman. But my response to that is, you know, you kind of have to do that in general in society. In order to participate in our society, there are certain aspects of competition, like when it comes to capitalism, for example, maybe getting jobs or, you know, getting chosen, winning a prize, like winning some sort of social prize, whether it's a promotion at work, whatever you view as the prize. You're always chasing after a prize, especially as an unambiguous black woman, according to your own talking points on your own channels. So it's almost like once they realized they were losing the femininity game, then they tried to abandon it and act like they suddenly don't care. Like, oh, well, we've moved on now. Moved on to what? Soft life content? Black women in luxury content? Those two things are still an expression of femininity. So stop trying to pretend like, oh, we've moved on from the whole femininity conversation. No, you didn't. You just gave it a different name, and now you're just trying to edit the content in a different way. But it's still the same concept. You still care about femininity. So why is it that anytime the exoticals get involved in a conversation, unambiguous black women leave that same conversation? It's because they can't handle the smoke. Or they will backtrack their talking points, kind of like Chrissy, the content creator. She backtracked her colorism talking points so that they align more closely with mine. Because I pointed out her internalized anti-blackness against herself and against her own subscribers. But something else I wanted to point out too is part of the reason why so many black women were drawn to femininity content to begin with is because a lot of them lacked feminine role models when they were children. So a lot of them have had toxic mothers and grandmothers and family members, according to their own talking points. And apparently it was so bad to where some of them don't even know how to clean their own vaginas. So they literally had to watch videos of women in their 30s. All these black nurses and stuff are coming online like, this is how you clean your hoo-ha. So it's like some of these women, they were so disadvantaged to the point where they didn't even know how to properly use hygiene. And so that's my issue when they start calling everything colorist. It's like, sis, are you sure this guy that you're talking about is a colorist, or do you just smell like fish? Like, which one is it? Because with all the problems that you guys are exposing about your own communities, colorism is probably the least of your worries. Like, if I don't even know how to clean my own body parts, if I don't even know how to not smell musty, if I don't even know how to smell good when I get out of the shower and have basic feminine hygiene care, I got way bigger problems than having a dark skin tone. Being dark-skinned is not a handicap. That's not a social handicap, but having bad hygiene, that actually is a social handicap. So I think another reason why they kind of abandoned some of the femininity content is because we exposed the fact that a lot of their issues they were having in society, it wasn't based on their complexion. It was based on the bad hygiene, maybe not having proper hair care, not having proper skin care, and like lacking just the basic outward feminine appearance or whatever they're trying to achieve. You know how they talk about like, oh, I want to do clean girl makeup. What do you mean by clean girl makeup? When my face is clean, I look like a clean girl because my skin is clean. My skin's already smooth underneath the makeup. I don't have to pile on hella foundation and concealer and all these eyeshadows and stuff just to look like a clean girl. And then a lot of times the examples they will use for clean girl makeup and stuff, it'll be like Lori Harvey or Jasmine Tooks. So it's these Exoticals. It's women who are benefiting from an ism. It's women who are receiving mixed race privilege, and this is the standard of femininity. So that's another reason why you guys are seeing a lot of them abandon their content. It's because we pointed out the fact that we are their standard of femininity. If you look at their own editing of their videos, look at the images they use, look at the examples they use. It's going to be Meghan Markle. It's going to be Lori Harvey. It's going to be Jasmine Tooks. It's going to be somebody who does not have a shrunken 4C afro. It's going to be every single thing but an unambiguous dark-skinned black woman in her natural state. So I think that part of why they're scared to have a discussion about their views on femininity, kind of their warped views, part of why they're scared to admit that their views were wrong is because then they'd have to admit their internalized anti-blackness. And they would also have to admit the fact that a lot of them were extremely male-centered. And so they were giving their power away. Like on this channel, when I discuss femininity, we will be talking about divine femininity kind of from more of a spiritual perspective. We will talk about it from a social perspective. We'll talk about it from a psychology perspective. So there's a lot of nuance here on this channel. In fact, the exotical space is what brought back nuance. I think that a lot of unambiguous creators, despite bragging about being the blueprint, a lot of unambiguous black women would just copy other unambiguous black women content creators. They would copy each other's content, or they would start rivaling each other and randomly beefing with each other. Name 5 unambiguous black femininity content creators who have gotten along for more than 5 years on YouTube. I'll wait. So it's like, these women don't even know each other in real life, and they're already beefing. Imagine being that triggered to the point where you could have a whole beef over the internet. Like you have a legit beef to the point where you don't even want to shout that person out. You don't want to tell people to go subscribe to them. You don't want to admit when that person is right and when you're wrong. So I think another thing that caused their femininity movement to fail was the fact that they couldn't even get along. They couldn't even represent black femininity as women because there was no unity amongst them as black women. You got one creator beefing with the other creator, and then this creator's rivaling with the other one. So a lot of the audience could see right through it. So this is another bad social climbing movement. Have you guys noticed that whatever movement a lot of unambiguous women start on YouTube, well, I'm not saying they even started the femininity thing, But let's say it's a trend in the black female YouTube space. Have you guys ever noticed that it only stays a trend? It'll go down after a few years because so many women will start beefing, or like, people will expose the holes in their talking points. And instead of them coming back and addressing it, instead of them saying, hey guys, my bad, I was just being male centered, instead of them just being honest and authentic with their audience, no, they'd rather just delete their whole content, or like change the concept of their entire channel, or try to like go behind closed doors and just private all of their videos and hope that nobody notices. Another reason why I think the black femininity movement online kind of failed is because they turned it into a competition. I'm more feminine than you because my husband is white. Oh no, I'm more feminine than you because I have more pretty privilege than you. So I've noticed they do have a tendency to struggle really badly with hierarchy thinking. Because remember, inferiority complexes always come from hierarchy thinking. If you're not a hierarchy thinker, it's impossible for you to feel inferior to anyone because you're not measuring other people on a scale. But a lot of unambiguous women have inferiority complexes, or at least the ones who seem to try to dominate the femininity space. So when they're making their videos, they'll be talking at their audience, almost talking at their audience as if they are on the pedestal, like their audience should be kind of taking advice from them. And it's like, okay, if you're setting yourself up as an advice channel, that's fine, but don't get mad when your audience asks you questions. So it's like, if you're supposed to be an expert on femininity, why do you get mad when I challenge the femininity talking points? Why do you get mad when I have questions about videos you uploaded? Especially if you're the expert and if you're so knowledgeable. Also, have you ever noticed that none of these women can come online and share the results of their feminine privilege or whatever? They don't come and share the results. So like, let's say they're one of those channels and they want you to get married or something. They don't come on and show their husband. And see, this is why I still will always have respect for the women who try to do stuff like that. Like, you guys have heard me talk about Shira7 on here. I think she did it the best because she didn't associate with those women or try to like do the same thing as them. But it's like, okay, in Shira7's case, at least she actually stood 10 toes down on her shit and kept making the live streams and kept, she brought her husband on there. And yeah, people tried to drag it or whatever, but it's like, okay, at least she's trying to bring somebody on there and tell you guys what it is. Versus some of the other women where it's like, you don't even know who they are. So it's like, okay, if you have a desire to protect your privacy, that's fine. But I find it interesting that you want to protect your privacy while also accusing other women of like somehow being less feminine, or, kind of placing women on this hierarchy based on their relationship status. So if you're single, you're not feminine. If you're divorced, you're not feminine. If you're LGBT, if you're lesbian, you're not feminine. So they have all these random standards for femininity, but then they can't ever explain where they got those standards from, why they uphold those standards. They can't explain how those femininity standards benefit them or their audience personally. So there's never any deep dive into the actual talking points about femininity. Like, for example, why is femininity important? Why does it matter? Can you answer that question? That's a question that I have to all black female YouTubers. Why does femininity even matter? I can answer that question. Femininity matters to me because it helps me to heal my inner child. I like to use my feminine expression to bring peace and joy to the wounded parts of myself from my past. So for example, for those of you who missed out on your childhood, or maybe you maybe you grew up religious and you weren't allowed to wear certain clothing, like you weren't allowed to wear red lipstick, you weren't allowed to wear makeup, you weren't allowed to wear bikinis, like in my case, when I was growing up. Me wearing those things now and expressing my femininity through my own beauty is actually a way of bringing healing to my inner child, because I'm bringing nostalgic desires of things that I missed out on, or, things that I was not allowed to do, things that were forbidden, aspects of my own femininity that were kind of forbidden when I was younger. I get to express those things now. So it's almost like this act of rebellion, but at the same time, it's an act of self-expression, and it makes me feel satisfied. It's almost like I'm living out a dream, or I'm living out a fantasy version of myself. That's why femininity is important to me. But I've never heard any unambiguous woman on YouTube be able to describe what I just said. I've never heard any of them be able to say that. And I think that's part of why the movement dies, because the audiences, they're not able to deeply connect or resonate with those talking points. A lot of these women were keeping it very surface level. Like, oh, just wear dresses, just paint your nails, just, put your hair in a butt. Don't wear your shrunken 4C hair. Those are the rules of femininity. Don't wear short hair. Your hair has to be long. You can't wear pants. You have to be with somebody white because if he's black, he's going to be dusty. So it's like they gave all these women these surface level rules of femininity. And then they'll be like, oh, I'm trying to give you this game. I'm trying to show you how to play the game. Play what game? What is the prize that we win at the end of the game? Anytime a woman starts talking to me about game, that's the first question I'm going to be asking in my mind. Okay, what game am I playing? Whose game am I playing? And what is the prize that I win at the end of this game? Because remember, every game has a winner and a loser. Games also have teams. So who's on my team in this game, quote unquote, and then who is my enemy in this game? So that's another reason why we saw internalized hatred against Exoticals when it came to these women who claim to be so feminine. It's like, okay, for somebody who claims to be feminine, you sure do hate feminine mixed women. You sure do seem to hate social climbing or hypergamous light-skinned women. Yet you're so feminine. I have a hard time believing that somebody is very feminine if they literally can't stand other women in general. Like, I just have a hard time believing that. Number 5, I think a lot of the femininity advice on YouTube was not practical. So for example, simply watching Black women in luxury content or kind of like, following women like Lori Harvey and Jasmine Tooks and stuff, kind of getting a sneak peek into their glamorous life. Yes, that's fun, but that's more of a form of escapism and entertainment. So that's really what entertainment is. It's like a light form of escapism. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not practical. Like, for example, if I watch a superhero movie, I'm not going to become a superhero. I'm just going to enjoy watching somebody else do that. So I think another reason why it died off is because a lot of unambiguous women realized that the women that they were aspiring to be like, they themselves would never have access to that life, or they didn't have the tools to get access to that type of lifestyle. Another thing I noticed too is that they won't admit that a lot of times femininity, they would base it on socioeconomic status. So, if you came from the ghetto or you act ghetto, that's quote unquote less feminine than if you came from the suburbs. And it's like, okay, so if that's what you believe, then you should be respecting the exotical space because a lot of us over here are from the suburbs. And it's like, okay, so you claim that being from the suburbs or having a suburban lifestyle is more quote unquote feminine. Or, being in white communities, that's more quote unquote feminine. But then as soon as the exoticals come up, and a lot of us were raised multicultural and multiracial, then you have this hatred for the exotical space. So it's giving jealousy. It's giving you wish you could have grown up like how a lot of us have grown up, or you wish you could attain the lifestyle that a lot of us over here have had. And because you couldn't, and because your own subscribers could see through the BS, then you suddenly want to say, oh, well, I'm just not interested in making femininity content anymore. And that's another thing too. A lot of women, they don't explain why they're not interested in creating the content anymore. They just stop creating it. They just hide it and pretend like it didn't exist. Okay, I think I'm on number 7. The reason why it died is because they treated femininity like a monolith. So they felt like there was one cookie cutter way to be the most feminine. And that is, being a hypergamous, kind of more of this trad wife type of thing, kind of like the cottagecore thing, the homesteading thing, like the whole, baking pies in the kitchen and stuff. So it was based on that. And there's actually nothing wrong with that. I'm not against women who do that kind of stuff. But femininity is not a monolith, though. So that's not the only way to express your femininity. But I think a lot of Black women were scared to express their own version of femininity. They were scared to cultivate their own unique feminine pedestal, or they were unable to create a pedestal for themselves. And so instead, they were just kind of looking to Nara Smith or, all these exoticals, basically. They were looking to Nara Smith. They were looking to non-Black women as a whole and kind of taking social cues from them and just trying to copy them. And then say, oh, look, I'm so feminine because I decorated my house. I decorated my kitchen. I redid my bathroom just like Meghan Markle. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but that's not the only expression of femininity. Everybody doesn't want to be Martha Stewart. That's not the only standard of femininity. So I think that was another major flaw that caused their trend to kind of die down. But what do you ladies think? What do you think will be the next trend on Black female YouTube? And do you think it's going to survive? Because the exotical sector, we have survived so many trends at this point. This channel has been alive for like, I think 4 years now. We have survived so many different trends that have come and gone. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.